Welcome to Living the Empowered Life podcast. My name is Yvonne. I hope you are all doing well, Empowered Lifers. Thank you for listening into this episode. And today's episode is actually episode 51 of the podcast. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast, please do so on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher so that you don't miss the bi-weekly episodes of the podcast. Also, as well, this episode that we're going to be doing today will be available on those platforms and also on my YouTube channel, Living the Empowered Life. So today, I have a special guest on the podcast with me. Her name is Hasu. And I met Hasu back in the pandemic, not the best of times. We met via a colleague that we both knew. I was doing some work as a trainer, helping professionals to navigate the virtual space. And through the organization that Hasu worked for, I was commissioned to do this training with their professionals. And we've kept in touch actually on and off over the last couple of years. And the last time I spoke to Hasu was back probably a year ago. And we had a conversation and she told me she had left her job to pursue other interests. And I just remember at the time actually feeling really inspired by what Hasu shared. And I had a thought in the back of my mind, actually, I do need to get Hasu onto the podcast. She describes herself, or I probably describe her as an explorer of life. And during the pandemic, she made a choice to do something during the pandemic that others didn't have a choice in. Now, that's not to take away from anybody's situation or to take away from the courageous decision that Hasu made. She decided to leave her stable, traditional job. And, you know, we always have a joke about that on the Living the Empowered Life channel about traditional and stable employment to retire early. So what possessed her to do such a thing? That's what we're going to talk about in this episode. So please do listen in. So I'd like to welcome Hasu to Living the Empowered Life podcast. Welcome, Hasu.
Thank you, Yvonne. I really appreciate you having me. And it's lovely to see you again.
Oh, thank you. So I'm really thankful that you could come on to the podcast so that we could talk to you about your journey during the pandemic. So first of all, Hasu, tell me a little bit about your professional background.
Okay, so my professional background was actually in tax, and I was a tax consultant for Grant Thornton, and I was based in Ealing, and they were going to relocate to Slough. So I just thought to myself that, I didn't want to obviously travel to Slough because I always lived in Harrow area. And I thought this is a good time for me to sort of do something different. So I decided to just sort of apply to the local council, and there was a job going in the fostering adoption team at Harrow. I applied for it, and fortunately, I got the job. And it was only meant to be a temp job, but once I started it, I absolutely was in awe of the job and the role, and what an amazing job, like the social workers did, what hardworking the foster carers were, the adopters who were trying to adopt inter-country adoption and domestic adoption. And I just really thought, oh my God, I'm making a difference in someone's life, whether it's even just like filing a piece of paper. I thought what I'm doing is making a difference. And I just loved that role, as opposed to previously when it was just trying to save clients money or reduce their tax payment. And I also realized, like we all obviously don't want to, none of us like to pay tax. And of course we do pay tax. But when I was started to work for the council, and I thought, this is where our tax money goes. And I'm so glad that, my tax money is going to what the government does for children. And I had never seen it from that perspective. So it was a real eye-opener. And I still believe that no one looks after children like we do in England. And, I take my hat out. So initially it was just meant to be a temp job. And fortunately, they liked me. I liked the role, and they offered me to be a permanent staff, which I accepted.
Okay, that sounds really interesting. So going from being a tax consultant into local authority, working for the local authority. And as you said, working for fostering and adoption, I've come from a similar background, and it is actually very, very rewarding. So you were doing that job for a time with the fostering and adoption team. And how long were you in that job before you then went on to your next job? Did you stay with the local authority or did you go on to another job?
Yeah, so I really enjoyed my role in the fostering and adoption team because it was actually a very varied role. And I was actually in that position for 16 years.
Yeah,
And I always thought to myself that I was not going to leave this role unless I found something that was really exciting me and it would take me to my retirement because I was in my 50s by then. Yeah, and then fortunately, a position came about in the safeguarding board for a training and development coordinator. And I thought this is something that I would be really challenged with, and it'd be a really exciting, dynamic role because I'd be dealing with all the multi-agency partners like the teachers, the doctors, police, and social workers, etc. So I applied for the job, and fortunately, I got it.
oh, that's fantastic. And did you enjoy the job? Did you enjoy that role? Did you have to retrain, or what was the role like?
Well, basically, what happened was I got the job in 2019, starting 1st of December 2019.
Yeah,
So I've had some training with the colleague I took over from. And then in January, my manager was actually on holiday. And then in March, we obviously hit the pandemic in 2020, March 23rd. I still
yeah,
remember that date, where we were all asked to work from home. So if you can imagine starting a new role, a very dynamic role where, you know, doing training for multi-agency partners. So we had a pool of trainers. They'd never delivered training virtually, and they needed sort of training to do so. And that's, of course, when we met you, lovely Yvonne, and
yes,
because you did our training to train all the professional or Microsoft teams. And a lot of our pool of trainers, some of them were obviously old school, which they were not particularly happy about delivering training virtually, but we had no choice because we were all in lockdown,
yeah,
and it's something that had to happen. Trying to deliver training on a new platform with trainers who've never delivered virtually, me still learning the role, not having anyone to sort of ask any questions if I was stuck because we were all working remotely. So
yeah,
yeah, Yvonne, it was a difficult time. I'm not going to lie. And of course, like with all of us, at the time, we were surrounded by not very pleasant news statistics about, what was going on. And I myself actually had lost distant relatives to COVID.
yeah.
So it was a very, very challenging time.
Wow. So it sounds like you were really thrown in the deep end. And as you quite rightly picked up, a lot of people did find it hard to adapt. And I know that people that I spoke to in different professions really hated
Mm,
the virtual platform. But as you said, no one had a choice. It was,
yeah.
business still had to carry on as usual. Things still needed to, be done. So you were doing this role, and I can just imagine, how difficult it was, with all the challenges that you mentioned.
Mm.
And, the pandemic obviously hit in March 2020. So as you were going along in this role, as you were finding your way, what was some of your kind of thoughts then that kind of started to make you think about maybe, leaving early? Because as you've mentioned in the interview, you worked for this organization for a very long time and you really
Mm,
enjoyed the work.
mm.
So you started this new job. So what kind of triggered like these different thoughts towards it?
So one of the other things with my role that we had to do was I had to organize conferences as well. So we had like keynote speakers, like 4 or 5 speakers, and we'd have all the multi-agency attending, like 200 to 250 people attending. So that was another challenge, like a huge challenge. But then the good thing was, I managed to put that on, and we found that being it virtually, we had the most attendance, people coming. because I think people found it was easy to just sort of log on and attend a conference as opposed to traveling to go to a location. I'm a people person, and I really missed not having that contact with people, and having face to face contact with people. And in my role, I could see the benefits of doing things virtually
Yeah.
because there was more attendees on with people finding more easier to do training virtually.
Yeah.
And in this time, something we decided to do, because I think with all the thing that was going on, me and my husband, we sort of decided to do our will because we had the time,
Oh.
Yeah. So um, yeah, and it was a really good thing to do because it gave us an opportunity to really evaluate what we had and what we didn't have. So it's just me and my husband. We don't have children, and with the pandemic, and of course, I had lost relatives and everything, and we both started to reevaluate our lives, and then I started to think that what, life is so short,
Yeah.
and really this role was my dream role, but the pandemic has changed my thought pattern and my feelings about life. I had to sort of reevaluate my priorities, and I thought that I was going to be 55. I was 55 last year,
Yeah.
and I just thought, what, life is short, and I want to do more things with my life. I want to gain more life skills. I want to do stuff that I really
Yeah.
enjoy doing. Nobody knows what's around the corner. And we had to, like, me and my husband sat down and we thought, let's do all the pros and cons if I retired early and left work. And it was a big deal because I'd had the secure job now like 18 years, because I was in this new role for 2 years, and it was a huge decision. And I had a conversation with my husband, and I said to him that I feel this is the right time to leave, because I want to now, do the things that I'm passionate about, and do the things that are more important to both of us together, as well as to myself. And I said,
Yeah.
yes, we would need to be mindful of our spend, which we were both aware of, but I was happy to take that plunge. And then we both sort of made a decision that I was going to retire at the age of 55.
So, Hasu, if you don't mind me asking, what were some of the pros and cons then, in making such a life-changing decision? I mean, if you don't mind sharing, what were some of the pros and what were some of the cons that were seriously like, part of your thinking?
Yeah. So the cons were one. The biggest thing was, one, I was leaving a job that I actually really valued, and I was really enjoying, and I was there for 18 years in total, and it was a huge risk to sort of make a decision to sort of leave a secure job, because it was secure. And then of course not knowing what was out there, like what we're experiencing now financially
Yeah.
and economically. So had the situation been like that then, obviously my decision would have been different. So that was the biggest con, the huge risk. And
Yeah.
obviously we would have to be mindful of our spend. For example, we used to like going on holiday, so we decided we wouldn't go on that many holidays like we used to, or go on
Yeah.
less expensive holidays. And even simple things like going out for dinner, because we're foodies and we like to eat out. So um,
Yeah.
simple things like, we would still go out, but we won't have wine, or instead of like a 3-course dinner, we'd just have one course. And we were
Yeah.
happy to make those sort of sacrifices and those compromises. And what was important for me was to actually start living my life and having the life skills and gaining life experiences, and the things I wanted to do. Like, for example, like we all say, I'm sure that, Yvonne, most people, when you speak to them, they will always say, oh, my mom was an amazing cook and her dish was the best. And we all have that dish that
Yeah.
our mom, cooked for us. So that's the same for me. And unfortunately, my mom's not with me. But I want to write a recipe book in the
Yeah.
legacy for my mum. So yeah, so these are the things that I wanted to do. So yeah, and then I wanted to go to a farm during the lambing season and experience that. And then I wanted to do like fix a car, so to have
Yeah.
a, take a course on how to fix your own car.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the basic life skills, which I wanted to do.
So, yeah, we're going to talk a bit more about that actually, what you've been doing since you've left. So, and I'm really interested to hear about that because I think, they all sound like really interesting things that you want to take up or have taken up.
Mm,
But when it came to now leaving the job, how did you go about that? Now you've made this decision, spoken to
mm,
your husband, you've, reevaluated your life because I think for a lot of people, the pandemic was definitely a time where people really did reevaluate their lives. I mean, I know a few people who lost relatives during the pandemic, and
mm,
it triggered this process in them where they were in careers like yourself,
mm,
working really hard, been in a job for many years, and then decided actually after having this really traumatic experience it was no longer suited to them.
mm,
I've seen other people who lost their jobs and then took it as an opportunity during the pandemic to explore the things that they really wanted to do. So for a lot of people, the pandemic, was a real catalyst for many different uh, things. So
mm,
you made the decision. How did you go about executing it?
mm. Yeah, so
Deciding to leave.
once I made the decision, and I thought it was a good time to do it because I was turning 55 last November, and I thought that was an ideal time to do it. And I had a conversation with my manager, and obviously she expressed that she was sad to lose me when things just going well in the role. We've all sort of settled in the virtual world, so to speak.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so basically I just had to sort of hand in my notice and work my notice, and then yeah, so that's what's happened. And I left at the end of October last year.
October 2021.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. So what was it like then your first day out of it because you'd worked for them for such a long time? I mean, the next day did you get up as normal and get dressed ready for work? I mean, what was it like?
Yeah, so this is the strange thing. So, Yvonne, had we been in the office environment, I
Oh
think
yeah.
I would have felt really odd, not like, getting up and thinking, oh my God, I've got no job. But I think
Mm.
because we had the transition of working from home and we were in our own sort of bubble at home, and then so retiring was actually, I think, a good way to just slip into it.
Yeah.
And the honest truth is, I'm a morning person, so I wake up at 3:34 every morning anyway, and I
Wow.
still do till this day. So that didn't change.
Yeah.
And I sometimes wished, oh, I wish I could just have a lie because I've got nothing to do today. But that was never the case. So
Yeah.
I used to get up early. And honestly speaking, people would say to me, oh my God, what are you going to do? You're going to get bored and everything. But um, I I had this unconscious happiness and a conscious happiness, and it was almost like I was born again. So I think like you would probably agree with me, Rob, that when you like working,
Mm.
and you've always got things on your mind about work, even if it's the weekend, you're going on a
Yeah.
holiday, you're always thinking, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, I've got to do that, and it occupies your brain.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, like I don't know, I've been working for nearly like 30 years. I didn't have my brain did not occupy that anymore of work, and
Gosh.
it was such a freedom, and it's almost like I was born again, and I had wings, and you know simple things like just going when I was driving to my gym, and there would be a song, and I'd be like happy singing the song because I didn't have the worry of getting back, rushing back to go to work or attend a meeting.
Yeah.
So it was really liberating, and I actually felt the sense of happiness
Yeah. Oh
within
my gosh.
myself. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it sounds absolutely amazing. And it's funny because I had a similar feeling, even though I left traditional employment after 23 years of working,
Mm,
always working
mm,
for an employer, when I left in April 2018 to start my own business. Almost
yeah.
immediately, the last day of that employment, when I left, it was like this huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I felt
Yeah.
light, I felt free. Mind you, I did sleep every day for like about a week because I didn't realize actually the stress of the job, how you kind of are always in kind of fight or flight mode because of the
Yeah.
pressure of the job.
Yeah.
And then it's like almost like kind of came right down and was
Mm,
really, really tired because I'd always been on alert, always under pressure and things like that. But I love
mm,
that saying that you said about, finding wings and feeling liberated and stuff, because I can relate to that feeling in stepping out and doing the things that I wanted to do. I thought, oh my gosh, I can't
mm.
believe this is happening for me. And I felt so happy and free, from just stepping out of the job. So, that feeling that you had, what kind of things did you start to do?
Yeah, so what I started to do, I started to look after my own well-being, mental and health. So I started doing more gym classes
Mm.
and more yoga, and I was already walking with a walking group. It so happened they had a challenge to raise money for a charity to do the West Highland Way, walking 100 miles from Glasgow to Fort William in Scotland. And then, in addition, to climb Ben Nevis Mountain. So I thought, oh my God, this is a challenge, but it was for such a good cause. It
Yeah.
was raising money for underprivileged children internationally to take them out of the cycle of poverty and put them in education, right to employment. And this is obviously close to my heart, having worked for the fostering adoption team.
Mm.
And I thought, I would love to do that and it would be a good focus. So, yes, I signed up to do this challenge. And there was training most weekends because although I would say I'm a fit person because I go to the gym, but walking is a different kind of fitness. So you have to create memory for your legs to do those steps, like,
Yeah.
20 miles a day, that sort of thing. So I had to train in order for me to complete this challenge.
Did you
So
do things like 10,000 steps a day? Because obviously they say, you walk 10,000 steps a day. Was that the type of thing you were doing and then building up on it so that you could do this long walk?
yeah, absolutely. So as you rightly said, that we're meant to walk ideally 10,000 steps a day. So for this challenge, we had to up that every week. So we started with 10, then 15, then 20. And we had to sort of also climb hills up and down, just so that, physically we were prepared for it, mentally we were prepared for it. But having now completed the challenge successfully,
Oh,
I'm pleased to say,
congratulations.
thank you. I can tell you that you can train for the walk, but you can't train for the terrain because it
Oh,
was hard. It was hard. But if you asked me last year, Hasu, you're going to do this 100 miles walk, and I would have said, no way, I would not be able to do that.
yeah.
But then it just shows that with dedication, commitment, and
Mm,
hard work, I was able to do it. And
mm.
yeah, I feel so delighted that I was able to do it.
Wow. So how many hours did you walk or how many miles? What was it in total?
So we had to walk 100 miles in total. I think it amounted to 342,000 steps
Wow.
in six
Mhm.
days. Yeah, and then we had to climb Ben Nevis Mountain, which is 1,345 meters high. It's the highest mountain in England.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
so yeah. So again, if you told me you're going to do Ben Nevis Mountain last year, I would have said, no way, Yvonne, I'm not going to do that. But
Yeah.
there you go. And I managed to raise, although our target for the charity was 300, I managed to raise £1,200.
Oh,
So
that's good.
I was, yeah, so I was really, really pleased with that. Yeah.
My gosh, that sounds absolutely amazing. I've wanted to do that moonwalk. They have one down here in, like near Clapham Common called the Moonwalk to raise money
Yeah,
for women who have gone through cancer. But I've
yeah,
never been able to. I love walking.
yeah,
And I know they do like a 26-mile walk. I think it's from here to central London. And
yeah,
it's overnight they do the
yeah.
walk. And I've always wanted to do it, but no one wants to do it with me.
I will do it, Yvonne,
Oh, will you?
anytime. I would love
Oh,
to
okay.
do that actually. And it's
Yeah.
a beautiful thing to do, in the
Yeah.
night, because you'll see London in a different light.
Yeah,
So
I'll look
yeah,
into
I'm
it
up for it.
actually. Oh,
Yeah,
good.
definitely.
It's
Sounds
good to
good.
talk. I'm going to look
Yeah,
into it because I know it's coming up again later this year. So I'll look into it and see if we've got enough time. But we'll definitely catch up about that and I'll send you some details. But it
yeah,
just sounds like
100%.
such an amazing thing that you've done, and as you said, thinking back to last year, you probably didn't think you would do it and you've now done it. And that
Yeah.
must be so fulfilling to feel that, you've done something that is so worthwhile as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can't believe it. Even now, when I think about it, I think, did I really do that? Because
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie, it was not easy. There was 2 days we were literally walking on stones for
Oh,
almost 10 to 12 hours, and it was hard. And
wow.
there were many times I thought, why did I sign up for this? But of course, kept me going, and of course, we had the support of the walking group that I belonged to, which was amazing. So, but yeah, and I still can't believe I did it, and it just shows that with hard work, determination, yeah, and support, anything's possible. So
That sounds fantastic.
yeah.
And what an achievement as well. So, what other things as well have you been doing? Because you mentioned about wanting to expand your life skills. You did mention about the lambing season and you mentioned about writing a cookbook. How are those things going?
Yeah, so because I decided to do this challenge, I had to put the other things on hold. So I've started doing, I hadn't realized what it takes to actually write a book or prepare for a cooking recipe book. So
Yeah,
this, because with most of us, when we cook, we just cook with all the ingredients and the spices we never measure. So
yeah,
of course, now whenever I cook a dish, I have to start measuring stuff and I'm making sort of manual notes. So the book is work in progress.
mm,
The other thing I've also done is a lot of DIY jobs. And for example, doesn't sound very nice, but we had a blocked gutter, and normally my husband and I wouldn't even think twice about calling someone to sort it out. And I said to my husband, no, this is what I signed up for. I'm going to try and fix it myself. And if I
yeah.
can't, then we'll get somebody out. And yes, I managed to do it myself. It took me 3 hours to sort it, but
Wow.
I did it. And I saved, I don't know, 200 or 250 pounds.
No,
Yeah,
that's really good. That is really, really good that you're taking up these things and doing them yourself,
yeah,
uh, things that you probably, as you said, wouldn't have thought twice before about just paying somebody to come out and do it. So obviously you've got this time where you're able to do these things. So
yeah,
you're working a little bit on your cookbook, just measuring things now, because I know what that's like as well, because I cook for my family and I know the measurements without having to measure anything. But obviously because you're going to be doing a book that's teaching people how to make the recipes, you have to do that. So that's a little bit of work in progress.
yeah.
Do you think that's something that's going to be in the near future, 2023, that you'll be able to collate enough recipes for your first book, or how will you be doing it? Will you be doing it via a book, or will you be starting with a social media platform and sharing your stuff? I mean, how's the
Yeah.
process going to go for that?
Yeah, definitely. So in fact, there's lots more challenges happening 2023. And I thought, you know what, I want to do this recipe book before,
Yeah,
it's too late. And and that's something very close that I want to leave a legacy for my mom and for myself, to be honest with you, because I've been told I'm a good cook. So I want to make sure that it's out there, not necessarily to make a profit, but I just want it to be out there in the universe, a book that somebody can pick up whenever.
yeah,
So yeah, so I'm in the process. Is I'm compiling it, I'm doing the recipes, I'm taking photographs and things like that. And when I've got it to a state, then I'll probably just put it on Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the aim. The aim is, yeah, I mean, yes, it'd be a bonus if I get money for it, but my
Yeah.
main thing is that I just want my mom's legacy and my legacy, and then I've got an idea of a third book,
Yeah.
which where we celebrate all our moms,
Yeah.
so like you could share your favorite recipe of your moms with me, and just like
Yeah.
my friends and family, because we all have, we all say that, oh, my mom's recipe is the best, and it would
Yeah.
be lovely to celebrate all our moms and our favorite dishes from our mom used to make.
Those are fantastic ideas. I mean, that
Yeah,
really sounds like you've spent a lot of heart time thinking about that, and it sounds like it really comes from the heart, the
yeah,
things that you want to do. I totally agree with you when it comes to books, because obviously I've wrote books myself, and my thought is that I want to leave something to impact and help people, long after I'm gone. And that's such a wonderful thing to want to do.
mm,
So I wish you all the best with that, and I know that your books are going to be fantastic. So make sure you let me know about that, because I
yeah,
would like to get a copy. Also, as well, you mentioned about the lambing and the lambing season. Could you tell us a little bit about what lambing is? Because a lot of us folks down here in London, we don't live near farms or do that type of stuff,
yeah.
but it sounds totally, something that is really interesting. So tell us a little bit about lambing and why you wanted to do that, and have you done it and what that's been like?
Yeah. So, coming from Africa, I've always been like an outdoor person, and we always have like had dogs and chickens and goats and everything um, back home. So I'm always an outdoorsy person. So it's something I've always wanted to do. So in England, like they have the lambing season, like I think sort of early March time to mid-March, and it's such a big time for the farmers, and it takes so much sort of resources and time for them to go through the lambing season and to look after the sheep and the newly born lambs. And I thought it'd be really nice to just volunteer to help them during the lambing season, so that the experienced people can then, use their time to do something else, and I could just support them wherever. And I've contacted a few farms. I've said I don't want to get paid or anything. I simply want to just have the experience, support you. I'm happy to have my own accommodation nearby, and I can meet you at 6 o'clock in the morning or whenever you need me. So yeah, so but some of the farmers have come back to me and said, "Mm, come back next year. This is a good time to
Oh,
contact us." So
so
yeah,
what
I'm
do you
really
what
looking forward
so
to that.
what do you actually do with lambing? What does it entail?
So basically, we just have to make sure that once the lamb is born, because sometimes in some cases they have to put the lambs and the mums in a different pen, so you have to move them physically if they're not feeding from the mummy sheep.
Yeah.
Then we have to help with the feeding. Some of the lambs may be slightly weak, in which case they need to get the vets out to support them. So obviously, I'm not an expert in all of these areas,
Yeah.
but I just want to off the load from the people who are the experts, so I can do a simple thing like in the straw for the lambs to sort of
Yeah.
give birth, or help with the food with the animals and the dogs, and bring in the milk or warm the milk for the new lambs who can't, get milk from their moms. So just simple things like that. So just having an extra pair of hands
Yeah.
for them to rely on. Yeah, and I just want to volunteer, and I think that'd be such an experience for me. And also, I feel like I'm helping the farmers, as well as the new lambs and the sheep. So I think it'd be a really worthwhile experience to have. And yeah, and it's again close to my heart because I love nature. I love
Yeah.
being outdoors. I love animals, and
So
yeah,
it
and just
sounds like
helping
it's
in every way I can.
So it sounds like something that you really enjoy doing, and you
Yeah,
get a lot of, you get a lot of kind of joy from helping during the lambing season.
yeah,
Yeah, I just think that's really just amazing, just because, it's something that you're passionate about, and you've just
yeah,
taken the time to see how you can kind of feed that passion, reaching
yeah,
out to farmers and different things like that. So
yeah,
obviously you've told us about the book, you've told us about the lambing, you're having all these wonderful life experiences, you've climbed mountains, all the types of different amazing stuff. Is there anything else that you've started to look into during this time, or have you kind of got your hands full at the moment with these little bits and pieces that you've kind of been telling us about?
Yeah. So I also help out with a charity where a bakery uh, they actually donate all the leftover bread, and then we then sell this bread on, and then this money again goes to the schools, to the underprivileged areas, to take them out of poverty and put them in education. So I help with the transport of the bread. So,
Okay.
so whenever there is a requirement, and I'm available, then I've always said to them, I'm available, call me if I'm free. I will help with any transport or anything I can do. So going forward, I wish to raise more money for charity,
Hmm.
do more challenges. So it's like a win-win situation. I'm raising money for a good cause, plus I'm getting fit, because I think as we get older, we need to look
Yeah.
after our well-being, mental and physical. And what a
Yeah.
good way to do it is walking to and seeing England. England is such a beautiful country.
Yeah.
So I mean, like for Scotland, for example, my husband's from Scotland, but I've never walked in Scotland. We've always driven everywhere we've been.
Yeah.
And to see Scotland on foot, oh my God, is so beautiful.
Yeah.
So again, this is something I've never experienced before. So to do walks like this in the future, where I'm seeing beautiful English countryside and meeting wonderful people. And that's
Yeah.
the other thing, actually, on these walks, I meet so many amazing people. And every time I go, I'm inspired, I'm empowered from the story that they've said. And there's,
Yeah.
like, for example, the challenge I just did, the oldest gentleman was 66 years old, and he struggled, but he was so determined to do it. And
Yeah.
he just inspired me. And I'm thinking, if he can do it, there's no reason why I can't do it. And, so I'm just in awe of all these people I meet on the walks, where they've done like base camping, at the Himalayas, done Kilimanjaro, they've done so many challenges, and they're all older than me.
Yeah.
So every time I meet these people, they inspire me, and they raise so much money for a good cause. And yeah, it's just, and I feel privileged to be, around these people, and I get
Yeah.
empowered. And like yourself, Yvonne, having conversation with you and what you've achieved and all the books you've written, and
Thank you.
you know, you inspire me as well. So
Oh,
it's
thank
just
you.
lovely to, have your acquaintance. And, you know, so yeah, the world is full of people who are
Yeah.
doing amazing things. And I feel privileged to be able to meet all these people, and like yourself.
Oh, thank you so much. And it's a privilege to get to know you as well. Because as I said at the beginning, when
Mm,
I heard kind of your journey stepping out in a pandemic
mm,
to, pursue the life you want, I was really, really inspired.
mm,
And, obviously living the empowered life is about living a life full of experiences that each of us want, living a life of purpose, because there's more to life than a paycheck. There's more to life than just sitting at a desk. Both of us have found that when we
mm,
both stepped out, I stepped out at 41, you stepped out nearly at 55 years old.
mm,
And I think a lot of people need to kind of hear this story and hear other stories of women who are living the empowered life to inspire
mm,
them and to
mm,
encourage them that they can live this life as well. So one of the things I wanted to ask you as we start to wrap up is, in taking this risk of stepping out and making the sacrifices that you have, is there anything that's really stood out to you that you've learned about yourself or learned about this journey? Looking back now with hindsight, have you thought to yourself, I wish I did this journey earlier, or do you think that this journey came at just the right time? What has kind of been your thoughts and reflection around taking the risk?
mm. So, in fact, one thing I have learned, like something I've always felt within myself, I know that I could have achieved so much more, either in my career or in my business or what have you, because my peers had that, and I know I was capable of achieving a lot more. So I always felt like I was always like beating myself about it, in all my sort of working life, that Hasu, you could have done more. Hasu, you should have done this, that, and the other, but you haven't achieved that.
Mm.
And when I retired, what I found was I had the core happiness, which
Mm.
nothing can compare to it. No job, uh, or money could compare to having that core happiness that I felt. And suddenly, all my aspirations of having wanted to achieve this, that, and the other, and I said, it doesn't actually matter. What
Mm.
matters is your inner self happiness and making people around you happy. And all that is free. And
Yeah.
suddenly I just felt liberated that I didn't have that burden on myself, that I could have achieved more. I could have had a better job. I could have been a more successful business person, this,
Yeah.
that, and another. And I just realized, you know what? Ultimately, you need to be happy within yourself. Nothing, no one, no money, no job can actually make you happy within yourself. You
Yeah.
are the only one responsible for making yourself happy. And that's what I found, that, you know what, simple things in life, like going out in the garden, smelling a bud of rose, fresh rose, gives you so much joy. And you can't replace that. And having conversations with people, showing people your love and your care, and you're there for them, to listen to them. I mean, I've had a friend whose mom has got dementia, during this pandemic, and he was finding it very difficult, and he couldn't talk to anybody else, but just being uh, for available to him, for him to talk to me. I know he said I'd helped him immensely. So just
Yeah.
simple things like that, just being available for people, um, means so much more than, a bigger paycheck or more successful job or how you look or anything like that. And I think that's what I've realized, that ultimately what just happens is simple things in life and the happiness that you have within yourself, which you can only create for yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree with what you've just said. There's a piece that comes with living your life free.
Mhm.
Um, and, this is something that I'm really passionate about getting across to people who watch or listen to the things that I share on Living the Empowered Life, because it's funny when you're in it, because it's like you come up through a system, isn't it? You go to
Yeah,
school, you go university, whatever you've done, then you go into jobs, and then it's just this hamster wheel of
yeah,
going through jobs and stuff like that. And the jobs that I did, I had very good jobs, but they really weren't what I wanted to do. But I just did it because this is the system. You're
yeah,
supposed to have a job. You're supposed to be working towards your pension, putting in your pension. You're supposed to be doing all these things. And
mhm,
like yourself, when you said about having that inner happiness and peace, it doesn't cost anything. There's a saying that says the best things in life are free. I think Janet Jackson did a song, "The
yeah,
best things in life are free," and it's so true, because none of the things that I get peace and happiness from now is from making money. It's from
mm,
creativity, it's from passion, it's from empowering people, it's from encouraging people, it's from these things. And none of these things cost money. None of these
yeah,
things required me to go to university or wherever to acquire these things. So I totally agree with you about inner happiness and peace. And my hope is for the listeners who listen to this podcast, I hope that they can see that no matter where you are in life, even if you are later in life, even if you've had a family, this is also possible for you too. This is possible for them. So that's what I want them to take away. So I can tell then, just from that little piece of information that you shared with me, that I have to ask, even though I probably know the answer, do you have any regrets?
none whatsoever, Yvonne. It's the
I
best
thought as
thing I
much.
did. It was the right time. So everything just fell in place. Yes, financially, like I said, we just,
Yeah.
you know, we have to be mindful, but that's fine
Yeah.
because I'm getting happiness from simple things, which you can't put a price on, and it's
Exactly.
priceless. Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, I knew that probably would have been the answer, just from the smile on your face and just talking to you and hearing what you've had to say. So what piece of advice or encouragement would you give to anybody who um, wants to live an empowered life? So maybe they're at that stage where they're not happy. they want to, you know, have, you know, different life experiences. They want to step out, maybe follow their goals or dreams or whatever it is. But like us, a little bit later in life and may feel a little bit stuck. What advice would you give them, first of all? And then what encouragement would you give them if that is them?
Yeah, I just think that it's always a good thing to write the pros and the cons. And I would always say that listen to your heart and go with what your heart is telling you to do. What's the point of being in a job where you're really not happy and you're not giving the best of you, your best version of yourself, because you're not happy?
Mm,
So pursue your dreams that may be in, creativity or a slightly sort of less money, but you're going to get more joy from it, joy from doing it. And I think it's definitely worth doing it, taking that plunge. Yes, there will be sacrifices that you might have to make, but those sacrifices, I think, are worth the happiness that you will feel and, not having that stress because, more money does not necessarily make you happy. Having a position, say, higher position doesn't it sounds good, but in
yeah,
reality, will that really make you happy? So really look at yourself and talk to yourself, and go with your heart.
that's wonderful advice. And what encouragement would you give?
The encouragement I would give is, yeah, I mean, like with myself, I always felt that, I should have done this, I should be doing that, and I should be doing, uh, achieving more, etc. But I always said that life is too short and you have to live in the moment.
Yeah,
Nobody knows what's there around the corner, and just live your life as if it's your last day and make the most of it.
wow, that's excellent advice. It's something that I definitely feel, you know, is necessary, especially post COVID. The world has changed so much.
Yeah.
So much things have changed. Cost of living is higher. People's salaries are not going up, but the cost of living is going up, and people where they felt that they were under a lot of stress before are under immense stress now. And I think that advice that you've given is timely, and I think it is also wise advice because life is for living,
Yeah.
life is for exploring and having good experiences and making memories and, you know, embracing people, loving and caring for others. Life is about all these things, and these things make up living the empowered life. So I just want to thank you so much, Hasu, for coming on today because, you know, I really am so happy for you and everything that you are doing and your journey. And, you know, it's just empowering to see another woman who is living life the way they want to live life. And it's so, you know, inspiring. So I want to thank you so much for coming on today. You said you're not a social media person, but I'm sure in time you will have your cookbooks out there and bits and pieces where people can find you. But thank you so much anyway for coming on the podcast. So, guys, that is it for this episode.
Thank you. Thank you, Yvonne, for having me on. It's been a pleasure as always, and lovely to see you.
Yeah, you too. So, you know, and I no doubt we'll speak again. But today, thank you guys for listening into this episode. As usual, I will do a post notification on my Instagram, which is Yemi Empowerment, YEME_empowerment. When I upload the episode, I'll let you guys know. Also on Twitter and Facebook. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will leave links below. If you're somebody who is looking to try and have courage to live the life you want, I have a fantastic online course called the Courage Course, and it helps you to develop an action plan to live the life that you want. Also, as well, my book Into the Unknown Journeys and chronicles really my journey from stepping out from all the known things that I was doing in a land of comfort into a land of the unknown, taking courage to live my life. So I leave a link to that book as well. So yeah, that is it for this episode. Thank you for listening in or for watching this episode, and I will see you on the next one. Take care.